Have you ever seen a moment so powerful that it changes the lives of two completely different people forever? Well, today you're about to witness one such story. Stay with me till the end, because this is not just about diapers, it's about dignity, pain, and an unexpected twist that nobody saw coming. And before we begin, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more life-changing stories that will touch your heart and inspire your soul. It was a chilly evening in the city, the kind of evening when families rush home with bags of groceries, children cling to their parents' coats, and the air smells of roasted chestnuts from street vendors. Inside a small grocery store, fluorescent lights flickered softly, and shelves stood tall, filled with items most people grabbed without thinking twice. But for one man, every item carried the weight of survival, of decisions that could mean whether his child slept peacefully tonight or cried themselves into exhaustion. His name was Daniel, a single father in his late 20s, his tired eyes shadowed with dark circles, his clothes worn but neatly kept. Life had been cruel to him. His wife had left when their daughter Emma was barely 2 years old, and since then, he had been juggling 2 part-time jobs that barely paid for rent and food. But the one thing he never compromised on was his daughter's needs. Emma was his whole world. That evening, Daniel had just $5 in his pocket. He walked into the store with one mission: to buy diapers. Emma's supply had run out the night before, and Daniel had improvised with towels, staying up through the night, checking on her, terrified she might get sick. His heart was heavy with shame as he reached the baby aisle, scanning the shelves for the smallest, cheapest pack he could afford. His hands shook slightly as he picked up a tiny pack of diapers, just enough to last a few days. He held it like it was gold, like it was both a blessing and a reminder of how far he had fallen. Daniel stood in line, his back straight but his shoulders heavy. In front of him, a young mother with a shopping cart full of goods chatted on her phone, barely noticing the man behind her. And behind Daniel, standing silently in a long black coat, was a man whose presence carried authority without a word spoken. His name was Alexander Hart, a CEO known in business circles as ruthless, ambitious, and one of the youngest billionaires in the city. To the world, Alexander was untouchable, but tonight, he stood there, watching the man in front of him struggle with something as simple as diapers. Daniel placed the small pack on the counter, his last dollar clutched in his palm. The cashier scanned it and said gently, "That'll be $4.89. Daniel handed over his crumpled bills, his cheeks burning as he realized this left him with just a dime to his name. His throat tightened when he thought of Emma's empty stomach. He had no money left for food tonight, but at least she'd have diapers. He forced a smile, took the bag, and turned to leave. But then, a voice from behind stopped him. Calm, steady, and unexpected. "Wait," the CEO said. Everyone turned their heads slightly, curiosity flickering in their eyes. Alexander stepped forward, his sharp gaze softening as he looked at the cashier. "I'll take them all," he said, pointing toward the shelves stacked with diapers. "Every single pack." The room went silent for a heartbeat, then the cashier blinked in confusion. "All of them, sir?" Alexander nodded firmly. "Yes. Bag them all." He turned his eyes toward Daniel, whose face was frozen in shock. Daniel opened his mouth to protest, his pride screaming against charity, but no words came out. His lips trembled, his hands gripped the little bag tighter. Alexander noticed and added gently, "And make sure they're delivered to this man's home address. He won't have to worry again." The cashier rang up the massive order, her fingers trembling slightly, while everyone in line whispered in disbelief. Daniel stood there, overwhelmed, his chest heavy with emotions he couldn't put into words. He finally managed to whisper, "Why? Why would you do this for me? You don't even know me." Alexander paused, his jaw tightening, his eyes clouded with a loneliness he rarely let anyone see. "Because once, not too long ago, I was you," he replied quietly. "And someone did the same for me." And that was the moment. One man's desperation met another man's hidden pain, and the world around them stood still. Daniel walked out of the store, his arms heavier with bags than he could ever imagine, but it wasn't the weight of diapers, it was the weight of hope. The CEO had personally insisted on carrying a couple of bags himself, walking side by side with Daniel, ignoring the stares and whispers of the crowd. For Daniel, it felt surreal, like a dream he might wake up from at any moment. For Alexander, it felt strangely grounding, like he was finally breaking free from a cage of loneliness built by wealth and success. As they stepped outside, Daniel couldn't hold it in anymore. "I don't understand," he said, his voice trembling. You're someone powerful, someone who could buy this whole store, and yet you stopped for me. Why?" Alexander's gaze was fixed on the night sky, where streetlights glowed like tired stars. "Because no one knows what it feels like to be at the bottom better than someone who's been there. My father left when I was a boy. My mother worked 3 jobs, and I remember standing in grocery stores just like this one, counting coins, feeling like the world had already decided I wasn't worth anything. One night, a stranger stepped in and paid for our food. I never forgot that moment. It gave me strength, and it made me promise myself that if I ever made it, I'd do the same for someone else." Daniel felt his throat tighten as tears stung his eyes. He looked down at his calloused hands, thinking of Emma, thinking of the nights he had cried silently so she wouldn't hear. He whispered, "I don't know how to thank you." Alexander placed a hand on his shoulder, firm but kind. "You don't need to. Just raise your daughter with love. That will be enough." For a long moment, the two men stood in silence, two souls from different worlds connected by struggle and compassion. Daniel realized that Alexander wasn't just a CEO, he was a man carrying scars no money could erase. And Alexander realized that Daniel's strength as a father was something even he, with all his wealth, admired deeply. As Alexander's driver pulled up, he handed Daniel his card. "If you ever need anything, call me. Not for charity, but because I believe in people like you. People who fight, even when they've lost everything." Daniel held the card like it was a key to a new life, his heart pounding with gratitude and disbelief. That night, Daniel tucked Emma into bed with fresh diapers, whispering prayers of thanks. He sat quietly, staring at the little card on his table, wondering if this moment was the beginning of something bigger. And miles away, Alexander sat alone in his mansion, staring at his empty dining table, realizing for the first time in years that he didn't feel completely alone. This wasn't just about diapers. It was about the invisible thread of kindness that ties strangers together, about how one act can ripple through time and space, changing not just one life, but 2. And if this story touched your heart, remember this: kindness costs nothing, but its value is beyond measure. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more stories that remind us what it truly means to be human.